Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're taking the absolute latest clinical data and transforming it into a visual masterclass on the science of cellular aging and longevity. We're going to treat the human body as the ultimate interconnected system, so we'll be exploring how everything from the architecture of your sleep to molecular reprogramming directly impacts your overall health span. Let's get into it.
Look, right off the bat, we need to fundamentally change how we think about time. Specifically, we need to understand the stark difference between your chronological age and your biological age. Your chronological age is just the number of years since you were born, right? It's a fixed metric, there's literally nothing you can do about it. But your biological age, now that is a real-time, highly modifiable reflection of your actual cellular and molecular state. It measures the real physiological wear and tear on your systems, and the absolute best part is that it's entirely within your control to change it.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the biological age gap, decoding epigenetic clocks, sleep as the aging accelerator, rapamycin versus metformin, senolytics and clearing toxic cells, and finally, the future of health span.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the biological age gap.
This idea of a biological age gap isn't just a theory, it's a stark clinical reality. Take this observation from Dr. Keel at Harvard Medical School. He notes that in geriatric medicine, doctors are constantly struck by the massive difference between a patient's chronological age and how old they actually appear physiologically. Biological aging is dynamic. It is a highly individual process, not just a ticking clock in the background. I mean, think about it. Two 45-year-olds can have vastly different internal cellular landscapes entirely based on their daily lifestyle, their stress load, and their environment.
So to really understand why this gap exists, we've got to zoom all the way down to the molecular level and look at a phenomenon called epigenetic drift. Basically, epigenetic drift refers to progressive stochastic, which is just a fancy word for random, changes in your DNA methylation patterns that happen as we get older. Think of your DNA like a massive, pristine instruction manual. Over time, things like environmental toxins, chronic stress, and poor diet essentially come in and start smudging the text. This leads to a massive disorganization in gene regulation. Genes that should be turned off suddenly get flipped on, and vice versa. And that's what drives profound cellular decline.
Moving right along to Section 2, decoding epigenetic clocks.
Okay, so how do we actually measure this stuff? There are two main ways scientists quantify aging. They either analyze your DNA's chemical tags, or they check your circulating blood biomarkers. First, you have epigenetic clocks, like Dunedin pace and Grim age. These look directly at that DNA methylation we just talked about. They offer incredibly high precision for measuring your exact pace of aging, but, they can be pretty expensive. On the other hand, you have phenotypic clocks, like PhenoAge. These just look at 9 standard blood biomarkers, things measuring your inflammation and metabolic health. They give you a much cheaper, highly accessible snapshot of your systemic physiological state. Both are fantastic tools, but they give us two slightly different pieces of the puzzle.
And this is where the science gets truly wild. Third-generation epigenetic clocks, like Dunedin pace, actually act as a biological speedometer. They don't just guess your age, they measure the exact rate you are aging at this very moment, with over 99% reproducibility. It literally tells you if your body is aging at a rate of 0.8 biological years for every calendar year, or if you're redlining at 1.2 years. It tells you exactly how fast you are driving toward age-related decline right now.
Which brings us to Section 3, sleep, the ultimate aging accelerator.
Now, if you want to know what steps on that biological gas pedal, look no further than sleep deprivation. Even a single night of partial sleep deprivation sets off a rapid onset cascade of molecular damage. It's almost immediate. Sleep loss forces your cells to upregulate their DNA damage response, which then triggers a massive spike in oxidative stress and the activation of inflammatory cascades. The direct, measurable result of this, accelerated epigenetic aging. We really have to stop thinking of sleep as just rest. It is a highly active, absolutely crucial state of profound cellular repair.
And get this, 50%. That number represents the drastic reduction in the brain's glymphatic waste clearance when you are awake. Meaning, if you are missing out on deep, slow-wave sleep, you are literally preventing your brain from washing away neurotoxic proteins. The glymphatic system uses your cerebrospinal fluid to essentially power wash metabolic waste out of your brain, including things like amyloid beta. When you shortchange your sleep architecture, you're just allowing these toxic proteins to pile up, which drives neuroinflammation and cognitive decline. It's literally brain damage by omission.
But wait, it is not just about how long you sleep. It is incredibly dependent on when you sleep.
Disrupting your 24-hour biological rhythm, whether that's through shift work or just staring at bright screens late at night, accelerates your biological aging independently of how many hours you actually spend in bed. This is known as circadian misalignment. It happens when the central clock in your brain gets completely out of sync with the peripheral clocks in your organs, like your liver and gut. This misalignment completely destroys your metabolic harmony and massively accelerates that epigenetic drift we talked about.
Let's pivot to the mechanics toolkit in Section 4. Rapamycin versus metformin.
So how do we slow this decay down? The potential of a drug called rapamycin is absolutely massive. As Dr. Sihita Sultanova points out, this drug, which was literally extracted from obscure soil bacteria, shows us that interfering with just a single molecular pathway can be enough to mimic the cellular benefits of eating less. Rapamycin selectively inhibits something called the mTOR pathway. By turning down the cellular growth pathway, it essentially tricks the body into a state of autophagy. This is where your cells actively start cleaning house, clearing out damaged organelles and toxic proteins, perfectly mimicking the extreme longevity benefits you'd get from strict dietary restriction.
And the data backs this up in a big way. If you look at this massive meta-analysis of 167 studies, you can see that rapamycin robustly mirrors the high lifespan extension we see with dietary restriction in vertebrates. But look at the third bar. The widely discussed, super-hyped drug metformin falls surprisingly short here. While metformin showed a lot of early promise in simple organisms, this comprehensive multi-species analysis revealed that it does not provide significant lifespan extension in healthy vertebrates when compared to rapamycin or fasting.
Now, we need to put this into context. Metformin is incredibly effective at activating AMPK to manage type 2 diabetes by improving insulin sensitivity. It's a lifesaver for many. But its direct impact on lifespan extension in healthy, non-diabetic populations, that remains entirely unproven in the current meta-analyses. So, while it's a fantastic drug for metabolic control if you're sick, the actual clinical evidence right now heavily tempers our expectations about its direct longevity benefits for the general public.
Let's dive into Section 5, Senolytics and the Science of Clearing Out Toxic Cells.
As we age, our bodies accumulate senescent cells. In the scientific community, these are often literally called zombie cells. Why? Because they completely stop dividing, but they refuse to die. They remain metabolically active. And instead of clearing out properly, they sit there and secrete a toxic pro-inflammatory cocktail known as SASP. This zombie cocktail poisons the surrounding healthy tissue, completely disrupts tissue repair, and drives a state of systemic inflammaging. And inflammaging is a fundamental root cause of nearly all age-related diseases. So how do we hunt these zombies down? Researchers use a highly precise hit-and-run senolytic protocol. First, they administer a specific combination of compounds, dasatinib and quercetin. This targets and kills the senescent zombie cells. But here's the crucial part. They then halt the dosing for a full month. This rest period is absolutely essential. It allows the body time for healthy tissue remodeling while minimizing any off-target drug toxicity. You don't want to suppress the system every single day. You just pulse it to clear the biological debris and then let the body heal. But of course, human biology is a deeply complex, interconnected web, which leads us to the Fecitian paradox. In a phase 1 trial, participants taking that dasatinib and quercetin combo actually saw their epigenetic age temporarily increase. It paradoxically aged them faster because of the intense cellular stress of all that tissue remodeling. However, researchers found that adding the natural antioxidant fisetin to the protocol successfully stabilized their DNA methylation patterns. It's a perfect example of why this is a systems biology issue. Interventions require incredibly precise combinations to mitigate unintended cellular stress elsewhere in the body. And that brings us to our final section, the future of health span. We are entering a really exciting era because emerging compounds are showing absolutely incredible promise. In one recent human trial, researchers used a formulation centered around alpha-ketoglutarate, which is a metabolite that is absolutely crucial for your mitochondrial function. The result? It reduced the measured biological age of the participants by an astonishing average of 8 years after roughly just 7 months of use. I mean, an 8-year reversal. This really highlights the immense, powerful potential of targeting foundational metabolic pathways to actually reverse the cellular clock. So what does this all mean for you? While some of these senolytics and experimental compounds are still being studied, there are profound, evidence-based, highly practical longevity interventions available to you right now. You can optimize your deep sleep architecture tonight. You can align your daily circadian rhythms with morning sunlight. You can easily monitor your blood biomarkers using PhenoAge or track your exact epigenetic pace with Udini Pace. You can actively mitigate chronic cortisol spikes through stress management to reduce that systemic inflammaging.
Every single one of these systems influences the others.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. If your biological age is truly a modifiable dashboard rather than a fixed, unavoidable destiny, what daily choices are currently driving your cellular odometer? The scientific evidence is absolutely clear. Your biological age is not fixed. The power is in your hands. So what are you going to change today to start rewriting your cellular future?